The issue with Gaza, that hasn't even been put on pause. And Trump was asked about that. What is the status of a ceasefire for Gaza?
How close are you and your administration to a deal in terms of Gaza ceasefire right now?
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're, in theory, not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and, we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people, once you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now. But so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that just get one meal essentially. But it's too bad other countries aren't helping out. Nobody's helping out. We're doing that because I think we have to.
Nearly 600 Palestinians at aid centers have been killed. Hundreds have killed seeking food as the famine deepens and limited food access leaves hundreds of thousands starving and malnourished. For President Trump to sit here and say, we're in charge of that. We're not in charge of it. And that we're helping, and we're the only ones trying to help them. We're not. There's many that want to, but they're prevented from doing so. And all these people are dying. He could stop all of that suffering by just telling Israel, open the damn gates, get the food in there. And there's plenty. If you don't want to use the United Nations group before because they're allegedly compromised, I have questions about that, but fine. If you don't want that, get it in another. There are other aid agencies that could do that. But it is a terrible humanitarian situation, and extraordinary measures must be applied to get the food in there. I don't care how hard it is. Find a freaking way to make it happen. Get that food in there so that nobody has to worry about getting assassinated just to go and to get food for their starving family. That is just unconscionable. And that's, of course, no one mentioned that in the press conference there. Trump certainly didn't mention it. But yet you have Netanyahu earlier today, just talking about how he wants to go back into Gaza hard. He's now trying again, and I can't believe that people are still falling for this stuff in Israel. He's now saying, now, after nearly 2 years of war, I'm going to prioritize getting the hostages back. And if those darn Hamas people don't do it, then we're going to go back in there hard and heavy. I don't know how you can go back in hard and heavy and then claim, by the way, that you're going to now prioritize getting the hostages back when you haven't done it before. It's just been this moniker, this title, this tag that he keeps waving in front of his people to keep them happy. My personal assessment is that Netanyahu has intentionally not worked to get those hostages back because he needs the emotional content of that and them holding out there to make no one say, well, let's end the fighting here because we haven't got the hostages back. So by continuing to claim that all of the fault is on the Hamas side, then he keeps the support for his war going on where he's continuing to kill these people in large numbers. And of course, you've seen the numbers in the last 6 or 8 months, maybe even less than that too. They're pretty high for Israeli population across the board being okay with killing lots of Palestinian people, in part because Netanyahu has been successful in building up this incredible hatred by the Israeli side against the Hamas side by fanning all kinds of flames, real and imagined, etc., and just almost no consideration for the humanity of the Palestinian people. But that's where we are. So the question is going to be what's going to happen next, because what Netanyahu wants, there's the headline that Gary put up there. I assume that's probably from today. Another 72 on top of that 600 has been killed while they're waiting for food. It's just abominable that this continues to happen. I just cannot believe in this current time frame in this modern world. With all these images that are out there. This isn't hidden, folks. I mean, Al Jazeera has it on there. It's on social media, flooded across place. United States, Europe, it's all over the place. No one's doing this hidden. What succeeds, unfortunately, is that the Israelis just claim, no, you're not seeing what you're seeing. It's not happening. I saw the Danny Danon, the ambassador, just flatly calling all this lies and hysterics, and claims that it's not true, etc. It's just black and white. It's just right there. It's like me telling you with emphatic, this is not a mouse. There is no mouse in my hand, and I condemn anyone who says otherwise. There is no mouse in my hand. These people are just enemies of. That's just what we do, and that's what they're doing rather, and it's working. It's working because people are going, oh yeah, it's definitely not a mouse. And no one's taking any actions. Lots of people are angry, but no governments have put the pressure on Netanyahu to stop doing this barbaric behavior. And they don't want to, of course, because they don't want a two-state solution. And at the same time, though, Netanyahu's saying he wants to go back to really pressing hard to get the Abraham Accords. He wants to spread that. He wants to have peace in the Middle East for himself, of course. But look, I don't know how they get past phase one, which is for the Saudi Arabia, because they're saying, yeah, look, we have a desire for peace in the Middle East. We're willing to go down and consider the Abraham Accords, but only if you solve the Palestinian issue first, and they have a path to get a homeland, and they have a path to have peace and freedom, a future and a hope. And until that happens, they're not going to have it. So Israel, on the one hand, is trying to kill its way to success in the Gaza Strip, and they're not succeeding. They're just slaughtering large numbers of people. And then on the other hand, they're trying to accomplish the unattainable diplomatically because they're not agreeing to the number one fundamental problem that many of the Arab regimes have in the region. Because I can't imagine any of the Arab regimes actually agreeing to an extension of the Abraham Accords without the Palestinian people being taken care of, because they wouldn't be able to survive in power, because their own domestic audiences, I think, would revolt if they did that. And they're certainly afraid of that. And that's one of the reasons they haven't done it so far. But right now, there's a lot of passivity among all of these. And we're talking European, we're talking Arab governments, certainly the United States, Israel, etc. And the net is that more Palestinians die every day. They continue to not have a hope. But listen, you can only go so far down that path. I mean, there was I think it was a Harvard study that came out while I was in Europe this past week that said that the number is probably not 70 or 80,000 Palestinians who've been killed, but probably closer to 400,000. It is an astronomical number, but that makes sense. That's actually a plausible number based on what we see with our own eyes with this massive destruction throughout there. It stands to reason that there are probably hundreds of thousands of people buried under the rubble that no one can identify or even find. There's just the missing. Not a lot of places you can go hide there and not be found if you're still alive. And yet, with all of that knowledge, all that information, all of those videos, all those photographs out there, there's just not any pressure on anybody's government. And that is just one of the saddest things and the most distressing things to me as a human being, is that even when, we say all the time from the Holocaust, where the Jews suffered in World War II, and 6 million total people, Jews and all kinds of other people were just systematically destroyed by the Nazi regime. We always say, never again, never again. And again. And now then, some of the people who were the victims the last time are now the perpetrators this time. And because they were the victims last time, they get a pass. And that just should not be. And it just grieves me that nobody with any power is standing up for the people who were suffering it now. And I promise you, there will come a day in the future, I guarantee it, there will come a day in the future when all of these leaders have passed, that people from future generations will look back and say, what in the hell was wrong with this? It's like there was this sickness across the whole range of governments across the world here, that something so obvious was happening in front of their eyes, and this detestable thing that none of them would want to happen to their own people. And yet they all turned a blind eye after saying never again. And they'll look with disgust on these leaders and their memories. And President Trump won't survive this either. Not his reputation won't survive this, because if he wants to set up a legacy, he's actually lobbying for a Nobel Peace Prize. And you could bring peace by coercing the Ukrainian side to acknowledge reality and bring that war to an end. You could definitely use the flexibility and the leverage of the United States, both in financial and military means, on Israel to bring this tragedy to an end. And you refuse to do it. You refuse to even acknowledge it. Peace Prize? I mean, that's just bizarre to me that it's going down that path. And that'll be viewed as such in the future. I don't understand all the dynamics, the emotions, and the group think and all that kind of stuff that's applying right now. We could probably do a whole series of shows on that. But that won't last forever. It never does. And when that passes off and another generation arises, they'll just look with disgust upon all of us who are in charge right now or who are alive right now. And they'll look back and they'll see who was standing up for this, who was passive in the face of it, who was complicit in it, who enabled it. And they won't be very kind to the memory of those folks or their legacy. Everybody's so obsessed with the legacy. I wish a lot of people, just kind of as an aside, were a lot less worried about a damn legacy, which is an arrogant thing that I want to be seen as something great, and a lot more focused on accomplishing something right now with the influence that you have and the leverage that you have and the leadership position that you have to help people now, right now. Whether you get credit for it or not, who gives a crap? Help people now while there's still a chance to do so. And I'm talking about President Trump here just because that's the guy we're showing the video from. But I mean, you can pick almost any other leader, and I mean any other leader, whether it's Starmer, Netanyahu, the guy, what's his Carney up in Canada, etc. Any other leader all across the globe, because all of them have an agency and none of them are using it. And that includes the Middle East leaders too. That includes because there are things they could do. They could take risks to help these people, and they're not willing to do it. Their Arab regimes aren't doing it. Turkey's not doing it. Europe's not doing it. America's definitely not doing it. Obviously, Israel isn't doing it. And these people continue to suffer every day. It is just heartbreaking to me to see. And I long for that day when whatever this blindness is that's pervading over so many in the world right now comes to an end, and we can finally bring this suffering to an end and the shame and the humiliation that we deserve because we're earning it day by day. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you coming on today and watching this. Be sure and like and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.